Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Ukrainian show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today's our panel will have Dr. Jonathan Lockwood. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here as always, Sasha. Thank you.
Now, I'm trying to guess if Ivan is joining us today.
I think he is.
Okay.
There he is.
Hello, gentlemen. Glad to be
How are
here.
you, Ivan? It's great to see you. And I would like to start with you. First of all, do you have a movie for us to show?
Yeah, a very short one for today, but we can start with it.
Let's start with that.
There's two people in the world watching this video. What would you say to them?
Ukrainian war matters, and it's not just a regional conflict, and it will affect how the world develops in the next years. If aggressor countries understand that they can just invade their neighbors, take away the land, and get off with it, and it's like everything is okay, you will see more conflicts in the future. And if we want a peaceful world, we want to support Ukraine.
Ukraine is fighting for democracy all over the world, not only for our country. Support us.
Ukrainian people know that you're supporting them. They appreciate the support. They need the support more than ever. You can't forget about Ukraine. Ukrainian people will prevail. They are resilient. They are brilliant. They have so much to contribute to the world, and I really hope a lot of people will get to visit Ukraine when Ukraine finally wins.
Understand that it's not only Ukrainian problem, it's a problem of all war, and we are not alone.
You should appreciate every day, because you don't know what happened in your country tomorrow.
Yeah,
all very convincing points, and that really should be. It's a shame that they can't be circulated more in the U.S. It would be nice if they could. Yeah, hopefully we will be able to.
Hopefully, and it's an answer to Sasha's question, what are the people in Ukraine are thinking about right now. So this is just people here are thinking, but actually it was filmed several months ago by Drew Binsky. He's a popular filmmaker traveling through Ukraine now. Probably the thoughts are all about the possible peace negotiations and what it's happening between the United States and Russia, and for what they are talking about without Ukraine sitting during these negotiations.
So you say negotiations between whom? Who are negotiating parties? Jonathan?
Yeah. Now, General Keane, who was a guest on Fox News recently, he said that when the Trump negotiation team meets with, supposedly meets with Russia and Saudi Arabia, their purpose, he says, is to find out, not to negotiate per se, but to find out if negotiations are even possible.
I don't think it's sincere, because after the Trump's call to Putin and agreeing to immediately move on to meet personally side by side in Saudi Arabia, which started yesterday, and followed by meeting personally between Putin and I don't think that to tell you the truth, the details of who gets what in these negotiations, it does not concern Trump's team at all. He used, in my opinion, Ukraine as the sort of a bait to get at the table with Putin, and divide the world the way he wants to do it. And Ukraine is just a little side deal that could or could not be included. This is my impression, and the way American negotiators, so-called, acted in Munich, and the way how this American bookkeeper Besnet,
Besant, yes.
yeah, he presented a piece of paper to Zelensky and told him, sign right here, right now. And Zelensky said, I'd like to read it and study. What is it? 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 8 minutes, sign right here. And if not, you will not have a meeting with J.D. Vance in Munich. So you know what? Okay, let me tell you.
That's not exactly good diplomacy.
It's not diplomacy at all.
No, it's more like
diplomacy whatsoever. However, I would like to mention, in my rich background, I was involved in some so-called mineral wealth deals. And I know a little bit of the structuring of the deal and who is getting what and so on. If you will get away the war, if you will get away the American help and anything else, the deal itself, not the way it was presented, but the deal itself is not so bad for Ukraine. I'll tell you why. Because Ukraine has incredible wealth of these minerals. However, it's unclear where exactly are they located and how much was already taken by Russia and what's not. It's unclear, there is no feasibility study, so it's unclear what's required to develop this mineral wealth. Maybe it's mineral wealth worth $500 billion, but maybe there is $1.5 trillion required to develop it. Okay,
right.
So go and figure out.
Costs more to extract it than it's actually worth. That could be the case.
In a way, if Ukraine is not investing anything, and at the end of the deal, provided that we live in a perfect world and these minerals would be developed and sold and so on, then Ukraine, by collecting 50% without investing anything and having all the Western technology available, and it will create also the working positions for Ukrainians, and they will learn some technology by doing all that. So the deal is not so bad at all. That I stand 100% behind that. But now there are new elements being involved. From normal deal, now we are getting to not so normal deal. There is a war. Okay, so of course, when Zelensky offered. Actually, Americans did very clever thing. When Zelensky first mentioned that the U.S. will have access to mineral wealth and we can work as partners, access partners are not synonymous at all. Access, maybe they will have 5% of the deal. Partners looks more or less like 50-50, although it's not necessarily so. It could be 75-25 partnership just as well. So what Americans said, well, we presented exactly what Zelensky asked for. Zelensky offered it as a partnership, so that's the way we did, 50-50 partnership. Not only that, well, as you know, the U.S. would have 50% also of all future licensing deals and different implementations of this project and so on. But again, what's a big problem with this deal that it's not tied at all to any help that Ukraine is obviously trying to get. Why would they offer 50%? Not just to develop these bloody minerals or so on. Maybe they will be developed, maybe they will not be developed for the next 125 years. It doesn't matter. What Ukraine wanted is to have, first of all, help in the next steps of the war, whatever they are, and they wanted to interest US that they're not doing that for free, but they're actually getting something in exchange for their help. So that could have been a fair deal. So even if this form, wherein it was very crude and awful approach, okay, sign it right here, if that would say that as a part of this agreement, U.S. is going to support Ukraine for next a year, 2 years, 5 years, in tune of a minimum of $5 billion or $15 billion or something like that, at least, or X number of dollars to be specified soon. Something like that, at least. But it was not part of the deal. So essentially, U.S., knowing what they did with Budapest Memorandum, they could say that, well, look, we signed the deal, we have 50%. So they will then could sell 40% to European so-called partners or some investment funds, keep 10%, grab the billions of dollars, and they would not violate the deal. Well, we signed the deal. We just follow whatever transpires out of the deal. So it's not so simple that U.S. did incredibly awful deal, ask Ukrainians to sign, then threatened that there will be no meeting with J.D. Vance, and all that stuff. I mean, you have to know a little bit more what's on the background of the deal. Yeah. What do you think, Jonathan?
Thank you for tossing that grenade back to me. Oh, here. Anyway, yeah.
You can disagree with me 100%.
I disagree to the extent that it's not as clear. There are some conflicting signals coming from the Allied side, from various sides, varying opinions of to what degree Europe should be involved, what degree Ukraine. The Ukraine obviously insists that it has to be involved, and I would agree with that. And that just making a deal over Ukraine's head and not including them at all, and just sort of bargaining away their long-term security and prosperity and sovereignty would just be all too reminiscent of what happened in Munich in 1938. And other observers are pointing this out. And it says you're doing what happened back in 1938, and the results of that we all know. So, and as I've contended before on this program, any agreement, no matter what form it takes, any agreement that visibly rewards Russia for having initiated its aggression, just like the one that those young gentlemen said on that film that Yvonne showed, that rewards Russia for having initiated the aggression against Ukraine, and that they got something out of it, and they weren't punished. They weren't forced to give up anything that they've gone. I just saw an article that a Russian envoy just said that the gains made by Russia the territorial gains made by Russia are irretrievably lost to Kiev. So in other words, Russians aren't going to give up their attitudes. They're not going to give anything up that they have taken back. So in this case, they have to be compelled by a decisive military operation, at least forced. And there are signs that this could happen because the force of Russia's offensive is steadily decreasing. They're having more and more difficulty providing logistics to supply and not to mention the manpower to sustain their offensive against Kiev. It has been noted by several Western analytic agencies that, again, their progress has slowed greatly, and the economics are all going against them, and what I've referred to as the correlation of forces is continuing to shift against Russia, and that Russia is seeking to get at the political bargaining table what they cannot win on the battlefield, and that is. I still remain convinced that Ukraine has it within its grasp, or within an opportunity to, at the right time, to inflict a decisive operational defeat to gain the necessary political leverage at the negotiating table, to in fact earn a place at the negotiating table by military operations. And I don't think it's a entirely done deal yet. And I think that the U.S. team, as they observe and they are confronted with Russia's attitude, that they are not going to be, they don't want to appear. President Trump did remark that we can't stop giving aid to Kiev because then Putin is going to claim that he won. And so there are, like I say, there are conflicting signals. And there's probably a lot of discussion going on the U.S. team. They're not all agreed that they're going to just do this deal and be done with it. That's my take.
Okay, two remarks. Number one is the most important question, it appears to me, is the security guarantees for Ukraine.
They were made back in 1994, and then they were promptly ignored. That's a historical lesson that I hope that the U.S. has learned from 1994 at least.
But its format of Budapest Agreement is, how to put it mildly, quite imperfect. Not because nobody wanted to even to implement that. But let's see when Russia took over the Crimea and annexed it in 2014. So what should have US and UK did according to the memorandum? Did they have to start the war against Russia? What they should have done?
Too ambiguous.
Especially at the power.
They had no teeth. It had no teeth.
And remember, well, maybe with somebody like Trump at the power, maybe there could be some teeth, at least as they could demand immediately to reverse this transaction. But when at power was Barack Obama, he didn't care one way or another, even say a word criticizing Russia. Absolutely nothing.
And that set a very bad precedent.
It's horrible. Now, speaking about of today, Jonathan, guarantee, and Zelensky said it many, many, many times. What guarantees, which country or several countries together can provide Ukraine with a guarantee against future attacks by Russia? Who and how? I don't see that at all. Even with all the best intentions, neither US nor Europe, nor both of them together will not provide such guarantees, even if they will sign something. But I don't think they will even bother to sign anything because it's impossible to implement.
And therein lies the danger that it causes people to think of Munich in 1938 and causes people to think that if we don't learn the lessons of history, we are going to repeat them. If not immediately, a few years in the future, once Russia has been able to catch its breath, to rebuild its forces, to essentially try to get up steam. Now, keep in mind, even if a ceasefire does that, Ukraine still has the alternative of reaching out with bilateral agreements and bilateral security guarantees, because there are European nations who are showing that they are willing to send peacekeeping troops to Ukraine.
But at this point, Jonathan, it's never been put as at least the partial guarantee or any guarantee at all. So that makes me feel that it's very shaky platform to use bilateral guarantees. Now, something else interesting, Ivan, I'd like to know your opinion. There was a news about Zelensky's mentioning that it's about time for Europeans plus Ukraine to have its own armed forces. And then he never said that, but I would add, it wouldn't hurt if General Zaluzhny would be in charge of this force. What do you think is perspective of that?
I think it's a really nice idea, and actually it was all in Munich, and as far as I know, Europeans were really afraid that United States will announce that they will remove their forces from Europe, and it would be a really shocked situation for European Union, European countries, because the majority of their military forces now in possible confrontation with Russia is based on United States support. Luckily, it was not announced, but the speech of J.D. Vance in Munich was really disturbing for European partners, and according to the interviews, according to the discussions in Munich, they understand that in case of possible war with Russia, it's not a matter of fact that United States will come and help European countries to protect themselves, and the NATO may not be a great option for defending European countries against Russian invasion, because now Russia is preparing more and more for possible invasion and confrontation with Europe. They're creating new brigades. They have plans to station them in Belarus, and from Belarus it's a quick way. Of course, they will be able to use them in another attempt to capture Kiev in 3 days, but probably for them it will be easier and faster to attack Poland or to attack Baltic countries and try and see how NATO will react. And the opinion is that there is possibility that NATO will not react to a direct attack of one of European countries or one of NATO countries by Russia. So probably it's a time for making just European army, which will be commanded by European Union, which will be self-sufficient, and just in terms of manpower, the core of this army possibly could be Ukrainian armed forces, because now I've got some kind of numbers that Russia now has more than 200 brigades. In Ukraine, there is like 100 and several brigades, and in European countries there are only 90 brigades. So alone, a European Union will not be able to defend against Russia, and also there is a big question about how soon how quickly these brigades can be logistically moved to the necessary positions. And Ukraine, in this point, is geographically in good position towards a quick movement of Ukrainian brigades in case of future war with Russia. So this idea is really looks really inspiring, and I think Jonathan may add something. I think his opinion is more deep in this point.
It's a very good idea in and of itself, and it does still provide the United States, should they in their continuing analysis and observation decide we should at least support this organization, if not directly with American manpower, at least with increased supplies and other types of indirect military support. And all this reminds me of what Winston Churchill said in his study of the Russians, in which he said that there is nothing that the Russians respect more than strength, and nothing that they have more contempt for than weakness, particularly military weakness. So it is especially important that the United States, if it is moving towards what I call the position of trying to be a geopolitical balancer, this would be part and parcel or an extension of what I've been advocating, the establishment of a worldwide strategic defense matrix. If you can do that, if the United States extends its Iron Dome policy and brings it to its full potential, then it can neutralize the nuclear arsenals of Russia, China, and Iran. And that, by neutralizing their arsenals, rendering them useless, and they cannot use them as weapons of intimidation. And as such, if Russia does not itself have a credible strategic defense against ballistic missile attack, they would become vulnerable to a massive nuclear counterstrike by NATO. In effect, you would have a reestablishment of the old doctrine of massive retaliation that was practiced by the Eisenhower administration under John Foster Dulles, where basically they relied on U.S. invulnerability to nuclear attack, as well as its nuclear arsenal, to be able to strike at a time and place of their own choosing. That would be a powerful deterrent. But the key to that is for the United States, for its part, to fully develop the Space Force and by extension, the worldwide strategic defense matrix as a way to asymmetrically respond to Russian aggression by striking at their weak point, not directly trying to match them force for force. That is how I would approach the situation. That is what I would strongly recommend to the current Trump administration. If you wish to really put America first and by extension preserve world peace, you need to develop the Iron Dome by upgrading the Space Force and creating the worldwide strategic defense matrix. That way you neutralize the nuclear arsenals of our enemy and our enemies, and then you have a sound basis for long-term security for Europe.
And I just wanted to add, and actually there is a nice trick in that option, because Russia is against Ukraine joining NATO.
Correct.
And no one is discussing that Ukraine will join a new European army. Russia was not discussing such possibility and such issue. They are not against it, probably.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is I heard a debate just a couple of days ago about politicians, and one side was saying that you don't listen to what they say, look at what they do. And the other side of this debate answered that what politicians do, they speak. There's nothing else they do besides speaking. Let's see, are you expecting that Donald Trump will come to your apartment and move your furniture maybe, or take garbage out? No. All they do, politicians, they speak. That's all what they can do. There is nothing else they can do. In this particular debate then, so one side says, well, if you look at Trump, he was lying all his life, and he's lying now almost every morning what he speaks. No, he's not lying. He is trying to diffuse his opponents, thinking one way, then he'll do exactly another way. So this is a strategy. Well,
it's almost like, as I mentioned before, it's almost like judo.
Yeah,
he is trying to keep his opponents off balance by being unpredictable to a certain extent, by almost, some have called it the madman approach. They may look out, he might do something crazy, and it keeps them off balance. The drawback to this is it also keeps your allies off balance. If they don't know, if they're not on the same sheet, if they aren't understanding what you're trying to do, they're kind of worried about what she's going to do next. They're thinking, so it has its drawbacks, but it does have its advantages too.
Okay. But Jonathan, when you do one thing over and over and over again, even your stupidest opponents finally learn the pattern and start to ignore you. And next step, they will start to laugh at you. If you look at this sanctions or what is it, the duties or
the tariffs, you mean?
Tariffs, whatever the others are against Canada and Mexico. A day before the tariffs would have to go in, somebody asked in interview, asked Donald Trump, is there anything at all Canadians can do today in the remaining few hours so you will change your mind? No, nothing. They cannot do anything. The tariffs are going in on Monday. So Monday morning, stock market tanked a couple of percentage points. And then, it was delayed for a month. And Canadians had to go along with all my demands and so on. So I gave them another month to consider. The Canadians did absolutely zero to come up with a new, because everything what Canadians did, it was already done last year. Maybe Trump didn't know about it or forgot or nobody told him about it. That's another story. But Canadians haven't done anything new which has not been done previously. So that his tactics, okay, he will do the same probably with Denmark, some European countries, China and somebody else or so on. But it's losing its novelty, there is none. It's losing its spontaneity, there is none. And so people are, okay, the same, it's like old dog. And he has been taught a few tricks, and he does this a year, 5 years later, and 10 years later, the same old trick. So people are coming to see, he's doing the same trick. We get sick and tired of it. We don't
so you're saying eventually what the various countries learn to do is they just, eventually what the strategy they're going to adopt is, if you don't like what Donald Trump is saying, wait 10 minutes.
Something like that, yeah, exactly. Now, but you see, it could be viewed as a great strategy when you're threatening tariffs. So the country does whatever you want them to do, then you get back tariffs and you're not implementing, and you go to the next step. The problem with that has consequences. There is a Canadian-wide boycott of all US-made products, all US produce. I did shopping a couple of days ago in a new store, and people are asking, these oranges, where are they from? From California. I don't need it. Do you have anything from Colombia, from Israel, from just any other country but US? So this is, and it's only oranges, but there are several other produce. If you will ask me how many Teslas were sold in Canada in the last 2 weeks.
I'd hate, maybe you count them on the fingers of one hand.
Maybe some spare parts, but a lot of people don't want to even touch spare parts from Tesla.
In Ukraine, there was a popular joke after Elon Musk started to post some really strange posts in Twitter supporting Russia, saying that Putin is a great leader and all that bullshit. And he actually started to do it in 2022 after the Russian invasion, because he initially supported Ukraine, but then started to say what a great leader Putin is, and that Ukraine should surrender. And it was popular in Ukraine that drivers of Tesla, they've put stickers on the back of their cars that, forgive me, I bought this car before I discovered that Musk is an asshole.
Good one.
Oh,
So I think that in Canada, Sasha, it will be something like this in near future.
tell us how you really feel.
Well, you know what I have in my financial show? I have two gentlemen, one from California and one from Canada. In fact, a couple of hours drive from Toronto. They both own Tesla, and they both said that it's a wonderful car, but we are not going to buy another Tesla ever again. That says about something.
It was another popular joke from British actor Stephen Fry. after that Musk Nazi
Yes.
gesture on Trump's inauguration, he said, "Oh, it seems that Musk is not Nazi because Nazis made a really good cars."
Yeah, Volkswagens. Yeah.
That's right. Jonathan, I think we will discuss it more on our next show.
Mm-hmm.
But it appears to me that what U.S. is trying to take their domestic policies and to transplant it to Europe. So the far right, whatever is now have a ball in the United States, and they basically control every facet of the government, took over control of the all branches of government in the United States. It's never happened before. It's first time happening ever. And they want to transplant it all to Europe. And based on the ultra-right fascist parties, like in Germany, for example, and other countries, they are trying to muscle their way one way or another, if not now, the next election. So, but one way or another, they're trying to redo Europe in their own image. Do you feel that it's something that you would notice or you would deny it?
I think that the dominant the dominant trend that I perceive is one that is moving towards the isolationist end of the scale. Yeah, because from my perception, the ideal position for the United States to reach would be, again, to become the geopolitical balancer, to maintain its own security and yet have enough of it elements of its military power that could extend protection at its option to its allies and remain involved that way.
Who are the allies?
Exactly. This would have to be. It would have to, in order to gain the full protection or make it fully effective, to make wisdom, for example, fully effective, the cooperation of NATO Europe would be necessary. So the United States can't really afford to go full isolationist and just pretend that it can just sit there on the other side of the Atlantic and not be bothered by what goes on in the rest of the world. It just would not prove very productive in the long run, particularly if a hostile coalition or hostile set of powers were to take control of what Mackinder once referred to as the world island. Whoever controls the world island controls the world. And right now, President Trump is in the position of being able to be the geopolitical balancer if it works out the way that it should for the future of world security and peace. But right now, there is a danger that it could go too far in the opposite direction, towards pure isolationism. That is a danger, and it is something that that the United States should remain actively involved in discussions of the potential dangers, and not just fully support without criticism, constructive criticism, what ought to be done in future years.
Okay, John, then let's leave it as that. We'll talk about more on Friday. And in the meantime, thank you very much for participating in today's program. And we'll see you on Friday, same place, same time. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.